imagine that nobody in this room would appreciate my therapist treating you for my problems. In the same way, I wouldn't appreciate it vice versa. My therapist would treat me based on my diagnosis as yours would for you. There is a debate in the psychology world right now, though, to get rid of the practice of diagnosing mental disorders, mental personality, and mood disorders. People are aware and afraid of the stigma around labeling, but I believe that we should focus on fixing the stigma instead of fixing the labeling, because I think that if we raise awareness for mental health, then we can solve a lot of the problems that arise from the labeling. There are also added social benefits to keeping this practice. According to Dr. Susan Heitler, we would have a more understanding society if we were able to keep the diagnosing of personality, mood, and mental disorders. We would be able to research and go more in depth with our understanding and become more knowledgeable. Thus, we would become more empathetic and understanding to those who suffer from these mental health issues. It would also help with the standardization of billing. Your therapist and your insurance company don't use the same terminology, and they are able to use something called the DSM that helps them have a set diagnosis with set treatments and set medications. That way there's a common ground, common understanding, and common terminology for you to get your medication or treatment as fast and as efficiently as possible. People are upset at the DSM because of the religious use of it, and what it is a diagnostic and statistical manual, which is what therapists and psychiatrists use to diagnose people. Since no mental illness is black and white, and almost no person that has a mental illness follows under every symptom that falls under their specific illness, people want to get rid of the DSM and the labeling. But even though there are similarities that certain illnesses share, I think that the differences are key. So for example, I have printed out a chart of two illnesses that are commonly mistaken for each other: borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder. And borderline personality disorder and bipolar disorder, as you could see, had a lot of similarities, but they also have differences. And borderline would be treated through therapy alone. There's no medication really involved, whereas bipolar disorder would solely be treated through medication. So the key differences are important in getting your treatment and getting your life back on track based on your specific illness. And the manual itself is constantly evolving as our understanding of something so complex as psychology is. So according to Lisa Fritcher and Stephen Gann, we're on our 5th edition of the DSM, and it changes because how we understand mental illness changes. So at the very beginning editions, you would find homosexuality defined as a mental illness that could be cured, and that is not how the community would see it as of today. So you would not be able to find it in the current DSM edition. And although people's concerns don't come from a bad place and with bad intentions, I think people need to focus on the fact that labels do have a positive effect, and people feel less alone. According to Renee Hoekstra, people feel less alone because they feel a sense of community, knowing that there are other people that are going through the same thing they're going through with the same treatment. It gives a sense of community, and it just helps them feel like they're not crazy. And at the end of the day, we have made strides in our research. We've had decades and centuries of mental health issue research, and to regress back on that is a huge mistake in my eyes, just because all of the research came from the labeling of people and grouping them together in order to see what was best fit for a certain illness and what helped them and what didn't. And we see that according to Glenn Adsheed and Caroline Jacobs. And I challenge everyone in here today to put yourselves in the shoes of an anxious child who can't breathe because of his anxiety, or a college student who's failing because for the life of them they could not pay attention to a college class. And understanding that neither of those are choices are the first steps to getting rid of the stigma around mental health issues. And then put yourselves in their shoes again and ask yourself if you would want your therapist to start from scratch, not knowing where to go, or if you would want them to have all the answers before you really had time to form the questions. Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, thank you.